Hello, and thank you for joining us live here at the Northcoders Graduation Showcase. If you are hiring for tech in the North, get in contact with our partnerships team to put you in touch with some of these students who are graduating today. These students have undergone a 14-week boot camp and are now graduating and presenting to you their final presentations. Without further ado, let me introduce Team PowerCut with their app Amplify. Take it away.
Hello. Hello, everyone. We are Team PowerCut. I am Emily. When I was 13, I had been playing drums for a few years, and so I went searching for a band. Obviously, I found a website that was essentially a message board that lots of people had recommended to me. Next slide, please. So I went on this. I found some people in the next city over, took an hour's train ride. I ended up in a band for a while, an hour each way, each time. And 10 years later, I went searching on the same website that looked exactly the same and functioned exactly the same. This time round, however, I valued my time a little bit more, so I wanted to find something a bit closer. And this was clearly an area that just needed updating and renovating for the modern age. So we thought, how good would it be if you could just find someone that was in your neighborhood a few streets over instead of searching by an entire city and just trawling through messages? Next slide, please. Enter Amplify. Amplify is a social media community app designed to connect local musicians through geolocation. Slide, please. We have a user-friendly UI that takes inspiration from the best parts of the biggest social media apps. Next slide, please. Allowing our users to show off and advertise their skills through in-app videos and posts. Next slide, please. And allowing our users to connect through an in-app messaging service. I'll now hand over to Ryan, who will go through a quick demo of our app.
Ryan, you muted.
Where's the demo?
Oh, I was muted, apologies. Could you restart the video, sorry? Thank you. So here's a quick demo of the app in use. Firstly, logging into a secure account authenticated through Firebase. Is the clip restarted, sorry. Apologies, could you restart the whole video? Thank you. Here we have a quick demo of the app in use. Firstly, logging into a secure account authenticated through Firebase. Once opened, you will be greeted with a map view showing you markers containing nearby ads. Clicking one of the markers will open a call out showing more information about the ad with a quick preview. From here, you can view the ad in full screen, hosted and streamed from Firebase. If the ad interests you, you can send a message to the person using the in-app messaging service, again, hosted through Firebase. If you want a more straightforward view of the ad, you can scroll through a list ordered by distance from your location. And if you'd like to post an ad yourself, you can use the in-app camera system, which can record video, take pictures, or like this user, upload straight from the phone's gallery. You can edit the video to cut awkward moments and make it feel more professional. From the form screen, you can also add extra information to your post, such as title, body, while the location is automatically uploaded to the database. You can then check your profile and view any ads you've posted. And now I'll pass on to Selena, who will walk through the tech stack we used.
Yeah, so our front end is built on React Native with Expo. And even though we'd used React towards the end of the course, using React Native still provided us with the challenge of learning a new technology. And the way we decided to approach this challenge was by pair programming during both the spiking and the development phases. Now, to build a streamlined user interface, in a short period of time, we used a few packages, such as React Native Paper, that help us achieve a consistent styling throughout the application. React Native Gifted Chat, to give our users a recognizable chat experience. And the Expo camera and AV packages that help access the camera and gallery, while Google Maps facilitated the map view, which is such an integral part of this application. Next slide, please. Now, for a backend, we use Google Firebase because it met our needs not only for a minimum viable product, but also for features to expand our product in the future. Now, Firebase allowed us to create and securely authenticate our users to host all of our data and media in an easily accessible, quickly to query, and very scalable NoSQL database. Finally, for geolocation services, we use a geohashing package provided by Firebase to quickly query any nearby ads so that we could display them on the map. I'm gonna now pass it over to Joel. He'll be speaking about the challenges we faced and some future features.
One of the first things we realized would be integral to the app was the structure of how data was going to be stored. So we spent a good amount of time discussing and planning this as a group. As the project developed, we wanted to add more features and information. We found on a number of occasions that we need to alter how the data structure, and the NoSQL Firebase database allowed us the flexibility that a relational database may not have. It also enabled us to take advantage of agile working practices because we didn't need to rebuild the database each time. Any of us could suggest new features to add and then easily begin creating the data to support and implement them. Next slide, please. There are also a number of features that we initially planned to include in the app, and with more time, we'd like to implement in the future. One of which was to allow for much more complex search queries. For instance, allowing users to search by instrument or in a different area to their immediate location. We'd also intended on using push notifications to notify users when ads matching a preset criteria were posted within a certain radius of their location. Firebase has a built-in cloud messaging service that we could potentially make use of to achieve this functionality. So that's definitely something we'd like to explore in a bit more depth going forward. We hope you found our app interesting. Thanks you all for listening, and we'd love to field any questions you might have.
Amazing stuff. Let's bring everyone back. Thanks very much. Any questions from the room? If anyone was watching live online, please put some questions in the chat. I think we might have one already. Cool, one from Izar here. Why don't you use RN CLI? React Native CLI, I think that might be.
Yeah, so the reason we ended up going with Expo, I think it was largely just to do with our initial spiking. We all wanted to get a hand on Firebase just because it was such a new concept to us. So we all went out, had a look at some different tutorials, and we found one that just seemed to really explain it all very easily. And that used Expo. So that kind of directed us in throughout the project.
Amazing. I think we've got one more coming online. Did you find your minimum viable product changed over time? Who wants to field that one?
I could say that, yeah. I think that, yeah, from the outset, we perhaps might have been slightly ambitious with the amount of features that we wanted to include, and we found that as we went along, yeah, that certain things were going to be a realistic thing to produce, and certain things weren't. But as I mentioned, previously, there are some features that we think with a bit more time were potentially doable, and we think that we might not even have to change the tech stack with that. With Firebase, there's a lot of functionality that we have access to there, and as Emily previously mentioned, with Expo, that's got that gives you access to a lot of different things as well. So yeah, it probably did change over time, but going forward, we can definitely sort of implement the other things that we wanted to.
Brilliant. I think I've got one more coming online. Just a second. One from Chippy. How does the querying by location work?
So this was actually something that was suggested to us through Firebase. We thought we might have to go into quite a lot of detail to figure out how this worked, but Firebase had a really comprehensive tutorial and a package it actually provides for it called GeoFire. So it takes a pair of coordinates and hashes them into a string. And it does this for every set of coordinates we upload, so that when we are searching for a specific position, such as our current position, we would basically check our geohash string against everyone else's geohash string. And the more letters it has the same at the beginning, the more likely it is to be closer to us. It's still not 100% because obviously it's just quite a random string. So we had to do some client-side filtering just to get away some of the slightly further away ones, so we didn't have ones showing up. But all we did then was anything that did come back with that geohash, which is a much more reduced list, we just checked the distance between our location and their location, and if it was within a certain radius that we wanted, we brought them back to the list and displayed those to the user.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the room? Any more for any more? Cool. Well, absolutely fantastic work, guys. Be so proud of yourself to build an app like that in just 2 weeks. So once again, a big round of applause, please. Cool. We're going to take a very short break to switch over Teams, and we'll be back with you very shortly. Cool. Thank you very much for joining us. We are here live at the Northcoders Graduation Showcase. If you are hiring tech in the North, then please do give our presentation a watch and get in contact with our partnership team. These students have gone through a 14-week coding bootcamp and have come out the other end with a project which they're about to show off to you very shortly. I'm very proud to present Team 404 with their app, Vitaly.
This afternoon, we're going to be talking to you about our application, Vitaly. Vitaly is a plant management application which we developed for plant owners like ourselves to carefully manage and look after their plants. Next slide, please. Our team is made up of Phil, John, Hathifa, Joe, and myself, and we've worked together on this project for the past 2 weeks. The reason why we decided to develop this app is because many of us in the team own houseplants, and we also face the same types of struggles. So it's not always easy to keep them healthy. And me in particular, I'm rubbish at keeping them alive. So basically, we wanted to develop an app that would act as kind of like helping hand for plant care. And Vitalyf is basically made to do exactly that. So with Vitalyf's watering system, you can keep track of your plant's watering dates and when they're next due for a water top-up. With the search functionality, you can find out what types of conditions each specific plant likes to grow in. And we also have a plant recognition functionality, where if you take a photo of a plant, you can find out which species it is and also what types of care needs it has. Next slide, please. During this 2-week period, we've worked really closely on every aspect of the application. So alongside building the front end and the back end, we've worked on things like wireframing, branding, and also project management. All of this while following agile practices like using Kanban, doing daily stand-ups, as well as other practices like pair programming and TDD. So I'm now going to hand you over to Phil, who's going to walk you through the functionality of the application.
Roll video, please. Sorry, can you wind that back, please? There we go. So our app starts with an AWS Cognito login. Let's wait for that. So there's 2 ways that we can start adding plants to our database. Let's start with the obvious ones. Firstly, we can start searching through manually. So let's click to search for a new plant. So we can scroll through all the different categories of plants we've got using our carousel system. What we've got, cacti, foliage? No, let's go. We've got a cacti. We can scroll through, see what we've got. And I think we've got a crown of thorns. Get some info about the plant, and then if you want to add the plant to your database, you can give it a quick nickname. And we can put it in. Once we've got our plant in our database, we get plant-specific info on watering and light details, and we can tell it when we've watered our plant. And it will tell us when we next need to water our plant. And we can turn on in-app notifications for our plant as well. The app also allows for searching, so it will search for common names and Latin names. So that brings up our bottle brush plant, which we can also add to our inventory with a nickname. Now we have 2 plants to water. One of the kind of specialties of our app is that we can identify a plant using image recognition. So we're going to have a nosy at Joe's flat. Let's have a look at his Swiss cheese plant. Takes a picture. And it gives us a probability of what our plant is. So our top result is our Swiss cheese plant. It was correct. We can also give that a nickname. Let's put it in the app. Off it goes. That's not the end. Okay. If we'd got to the end of the video, we could have also deleted plants from our database, as well as assigning our own images to our plant to personalize it. I'll now hand to Hathifa, who will talk about the tech stack.
Yes. Can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right. Since the beginning of the project, we as a team wanted to be ambitious with our tech stack and make the right choices to achieve the overall project goals while also enhancing our own technical skill base. After initial spiking, we settled on DynamoDB as it allowed a more flexible data structure, which led to using further Amazon Web Services, including API Gateway, to host and set up our API endpoints, Cognito for user verification, which is directly linked to our user database, Amplify to link our front-end user creation to Cognito. The implementation of AWS S3 allowed us the ability to store user-uploaded images, and finally, AWS Lambda functions, which trigger integrations between the various services due to their natural integration. Since we were going for a mobile-only approach, we chose React Native as along with Expo, it offers excellent cross-platform compatibility. The choice of TypeScript made for a more robust front-end development and also satisfied the team's desire to expand our language base. Over to Joe for more details on backend.
Find all the data we needed. After a lot of Googling over the spiky phase of the project, we came to the conclusion that we were going to set up our own API using a variety of data sources. So for the plant care details, we used an API called Open Plant Book, which also included plant images we used as well. For more detailed plant descriptions and plant bios, we use the MediaWiki API, which source data from Wikipedia. And we also used a website called guidehouseplants.com, which was an online plant encyclopedia, which helped us to sort of marry up the botanical names with common names quite nicely. In addition to this, we also use an API called plant.id for the plant recognition functionality. So when a user has a plant image, if they want to identify, this image gets sent to plant.id, and with the results of plant.id, we send a list of names to our own API. For any matching results, we display the data that is stored in DynamoDB, so the information displayed to the user is consistent throughout the app. But overall, after the learning curve of AWS, we found the serverless management of the backend really useful in terms of being able to deploy quite quickly. We were able to make any on-the-go changes to endpoints quite hassle-free, and moving forward, we've got everything in place really to scale the app and grow the app quite nicely. So yeah, I'll hand over to John for the front end.
Thanks. I'd like to delve into front end of React Native and Expo for mobile development. We use TypeScript for our choice because we want to control our environment. Its stricter rule set on static typing made us much more aware of our inputs and outputs. And after some initial difficulties, we found it really advantageous to the development of the app. One unfortunate stumbling block after succeeding with the camera roll and photo taking capabilities was being unable to set up a function we wanted to have, which was the light sensor to measure lux, which would enable us to measure a light in an area and see if the plant data we got from our apps, or API, sorry, could match the position of the plant in the home. With the time we had, this additional tech need couldn't be added despite our attempts. With more time, we could overcome this, and indeed several other features could be added as well. Next slide, please. These including the addition of a time-lapse gallery, as the user images can be saved to the AWS bucket, and it returns only the most recent, but a time-lapse gallery of the plant over time would be nice to be able to see the plant from when you get it, as it grows over time, and show its lifespan. Integration to calendar to our watering times, so we could get notifications and view upcoming events for watering will be ideal. And indeed, there's a few more on there which we wanted to do, which came up during development. We realized that these would be things we could add in from the data set we've achieved and would like to incorporate in more time. Thank you very much for listening.
All right.
Cool.
Absolutely amazing stuff. And as someone who's got lots of houseplants at home, some of which has got dry leaves and some going a bit brown, I think this would be absolutely perfect for me. Cool. Any questions from online or in the room, please? Any at all? We might have one online coming in. How did you find the learning curve of TypeScript coming from a JavaScript background?
It was a bit like when you first learn test-driven development, and you're used to kind of banging through your code with no worries or cares, and you suddenly have to slow down, take it a bit of a time, but it forces you to think about what it is you're actually doing and what types you've got. And so in the end, it's worth it.
Yeah, it was definitely a steep learning curve, and I felt like running into a wall a little bit at times, but we overcame it and climbed over that wall.
It's a lot of angry
JavaScript
code, yeah.
is a lot softer and more forgiving. TypeScript is very rigid, and for that reason, it helps you develop because you can't make silly errors, you can't make slip-ups. It will correct you as you develop.
Cool. Here's a question from myself. A lot of new technologies that weren't taught in the course, AWS in particular, is a huge resource, tons and tons of different services. How easy was it for you to identify which ones would kind of help, which one would fit in with kind of what you were going for with your use case?
I guess
It's quite tricky. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess it was really difficult from the beginning because there's so many services that AWS offers. So we really had to kind of deep dive into the different options and kind of what the possibilities were. So we had to do a bit of research in the background to kind of figure out how we would actually connect everything up and which services we'd need to use. And it was kind of just really a lot of reading online and figuring out how the setup works. And I think that did take a bit of time kind of figuring out, reading a lot of documentation, watching a lot of videos from, yeah.
Any more questions, please? One at the back.
What was it like to manage your idea so you had a minimum viable product in the timescale? Like, what was that project management like?
Sorry, what was that?
Should we reply? How was our minimum viable product? Our minimum viable product did indeed change and fluctuate a little bit during the timescale. As I mentioned, we had a light sensor capability, which we spent some time trying to enable. And it was difficult to not add in all the features and capabilities that we found as we were going along. There's a big list on a Trello board of lovely ideas that we could chase that down and do. Given weeks, months, we can make this a lot bigger.
Any more of it?
We've got one from the chat, kind of.
Cool. Yeah, when are you hosting? 10 out of 10 would use. Absolutely. I think my Monstera at home would absolutely thank you for that. And also, I love how you can nickname them. Definitely something I do at home as well. Cool. Oh, here's one. How did you find working with AWS? Another AWS question. As we heard, it'd be quite unfriendly for some users. How did you find going into it?
I think initially we found it quite hard because the services of interaction between each service, and it's quite hard to identify where the bugs were happening, and but I think CloudWatch helped a lot of that, like knowing where to log in which interaction and stuff. But yeah, initially it was like felt quite lost, like don't know what's happening and where and stuff like that. I think that was one of the main challenges with AWS.
One service tends to lead to another one as well. So when you use Cognito, you have to get Amplify in there. You don't really know which service you're at quite a lot of the time until. But I think once you've done it once, you know the way it works and it's fine. But it's that initial process of getting through that's tricky.
A lot of research, I'll say.
And just one more quick one from me. Like you've used AWS, the plant identifying. It was an AI that did that feature, the identification.
Yeah, it's an API.
Is an API
you do post requests too. Yeah.
Yeah. Were these all absolutely free that anyone could use, or did you have to start a trial?
We got a key for plant.id, and they gave us a free key to try developing with 200 limits, a 200 limit per week. So there was some caution to not hit that limit.
Yeah, some testing, but not too much. Awesome, cool. Any more for any more? Cool. Well, I think with Team 404, they're up. Another round of applause, please. Cool. Thank you very much. We'll do a quick switch over of groups. We're back with you very shortly. Yeah. Move the camera. Hello, welcome back to the Northcoders Graduation Showcase. We're here with our project teams who are about to present their final projects of the Northcoders Bootcamp. I'm very proud to present Team Git Push, Get Paid with their app Rpgo. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Hi guys, I'm Andy. I'm here with Liam and Sam, and Carrie's joining us remotely, and we're here to showcase our app Rpgo. So Rpgo is a exercise-themed mobile RPG game. So the user will undertake a variety of movement-based challenges or quests in order to level up the character and to earn experience points and rewards. Those quests include traveling a certain distance or meeting a step goal, climbing X amount of meters, and so on. As you can probably tell from some of the slides, we modeled our game on retro RPG games to keep the theme quite lighthearted and to bring in an element of nostalgia to the app. We were really inspired by a handful of really popular apps such as Strava, Pokemon Go, and Zombies Run. So we tried to take some of the core concepts from each, put them together with our own twist to produce what we believe is a really exciting app that promotes a healthy lifestyle and encourages people to get out and explore. We followed agile practices throughout, so we used Kanban, daily stand-ups. We were fortunate enough to have our own headquarters in Leeds, so it was really easy to pair program and mob programming as well. Really proud of what we've achieved in the past few weeks. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Carrie, who will give you a demo of the app.
Hello. So this is our app. If you'd be able to play the video, please. Yeah, just the one that the video is embedded. You can just play that. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so this is the title screen. So you can either log in or register, and it's obviously styled on old games. So this is a registration screen where you can pick your character sprite. So it picks how you're going to look in the game. And you can create an account with a username and a password, but because we already have an account, we can log in. So here we're just going to log in with our pre-existing username and password. And then once we're logged in, this brings us to the map screen. So on the map screen, your position on the map is represented by a little sprite that you saw selected in the registration screen. So obviously it's like your character on the map. And from the map screen, you can go to the quest screen. So this is where you pick the activities, which Andy mentioned in the previous slide. So they're all based on sort of step counts or meters traveled or meters climbed, and you get a reward of a trophy or and experience points. So for the case of this example, we're going to pick this "'Tis But a Scratch," our one of the 500 meters challenges. And on this screen, you'll see the challenge information at the top. So you can end at any time, but you'll lose your progress. And that reminds you of this. So now we're going to complete the challenge. So you'll see the counter at the top underneath the challenge description has gone up. So once it's past that threshold, then you'll get the prompt to see if you want to continue tracking, but you won't get any experience, or finish challenge, get experience, and level up. The other feature, so some other features in this app are in the menu screen. So you can change your sprite. So you can change the character that's representing you on the map. So it changes the menu, and it will change in the map as well. That's persistent throughout the app. You'll also see there's a trophies menu. So this is where the rewards that you get from the completing challenges, they'll show up in the trophies menu. You can also see the previous activities. So this shows the stats of previous challenges that you've completed, and you can even see the route that you've taken. So I think this is a run from Leeds Centre to somewhere else. But then yeah, we can also see the challenge that we completed earlier, the "'Tis But a Scratch" challenge. We'll see that route. Also in the menu, we've got fellow adventurers. So this is a list of other users of the app, and so you can see their stats. So you can kind of compare progress with other people. And if you tap on them, you can also see their completed challenges, and you can see their routes that they've previously followed to complete that challenge. And yeah, that is about everything on the app. So once you're completed, you can log out and it'll take you back to the title screen. Cool. So that's the app, and I'll pass you over to Samuel for our tech stack.
Great. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the tech choices we made while we were making the app. So on our front end, we wanted to make something that would work well across platform. And to do this, we decided to use React Native and Expo. This offered an opportunity to learn something new. It's something we hadn't done on the course, but with a little bit of familiarity of React.js, which meant we could focus on the functionality. React Native and Expo had a ton of really useful modules and tools within it that we needed for the core functionality. So we had React Native maps, a location API in Expo. Expo also had a module for accessing the pedometer in your phone as well. And Expo also gave a really good dev experience. So we could really easily use the Expo app to see the changes we were making to the app on our phone quickly. And it also allowed us to host the app quite quickly on Expo, which for testing this kind of app where you need to run around and make things happen was really helpful. In the back end, we opted for a MongoDB database. The initial thinking of this was just we wanted to learn more about non-relational databases. But as we progressed, we realized it was a good choice. It gave a great deal of flexibility in the data structure and the endpoints you build for it. And as we were building the app, we found we needed to sort of store data in different ways to be able to pass it between different components. We combined this with an Express server, using Mongoose as a object data modeling library to be able to speak between the two. Mongoose made it really easy to write endpoints quite quickly, which again was really helpful when we were sort of adapting quickly while making the project. And Node as well allowed us to use crypto for encrypting and decrypting passwords when we were creating and logging in users. The whole thing was done using test-driven development with Jest as a testing library. And we used Heroku to host the back end so we could get it up quickly and be able to start testing the front end as quickly as possible. I'll just pass on to Liam now to talk through some of the future opportunities and the challenges we had.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to talk through some of the hurdles that we got over just during development. So one of the first ones we had was, Sam mentioned earlier that we chose to use a MongoDB database on the back end. Certainly in my case, there was a little bit of early worries just about how different that would be from the relational databases that we learned about during the course. But as we progressed, MongoDB's documentation proved itself to be really good, and the tutorials that we found were really quite good as well. And along with some pair and mob programming, we were able to share knowledge quite easily so that we were able to all be on the same page. So in the end, we ended up preferring MongoDB to relational databases to quite a big extent. Another hurdle we got over was to do with testing, especially on the front end, because a large amount of the app is centered around tracking location and all sorts of different aspects of that location. It became necessary to feed the app sort of live data during development, which actually involved us sort of being out in Leeds city centre trying to hope that the app would be able to find us. I know definitely that we're very grateful to Sam as well, since we had him running up and down 10 flights of stairs to where we weren't able to use an elevator to track the elevation data. So we're all very grateful for that. And another hurdle we came over was some of the nuances between iOS and Android, which were the two platforms we were developing for. So much so that we found that iOS devices were much more readily willing to use some of the pedometer data that was built into it. So we definitely came to understand some of the differences between those. In terms of future features that we'd like to develop, you'll remember from the earlier slides that we took quite a lot of inspiration from Strava whilst in development, and we were hoping to incorporate some accessibility through Strava's API. So maybe if users of our app also have a Strava account, they might be able to use activities on their Strava to contribute towards challenges, or maybe even just have that data visible in some way. You can see from these screenshots here that we did do some initial spiking with that in a web form, but given a bit more time, we would like to sort of translate that over into an app equivalent of that. Another feature we'd like to expand a little bit more is to do with the social elements of the app. So the decision to add in the friends list, the other adventurers, was brought up sort of midway through development. And we do think it looks quite good at the moment, but we'd definitely like to encourage a bit more interaction between users of the app, maybe some kind of liking feature or a way for users to sort of feedback on each other's activities. So I believe we have one more slide, if we could grab that. Yep, so this is just the information about the group. We are, of course, Git push, Git paid. If you did have any questions, we'll do our very best to answer those. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you so much. And just the concept of being able to go on like a quest to go to exercise is just tickling me and wants to get me out there. Amazing, amazing stuff. Please, any questions from online or in the room? Got one over here. What? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I was just wondering how you found the transition from sort of like the relational databases, SQL, to Mongo, and that sort of non-relational.
So the initial setup, I think, was a bit of a challenge in terms of just working out exactly how it worked. But once we found Mongoose as a way of interacting with MongoDB, it made it incredibly simple. So you can create things called schemas, which allow you to validate the data that goes in and out of your database. And it comes with essentially a language around it, which is incredibly verbose. You literally say, find one of this thing that we've defined already. So It also gives you a lot of sort of data flexibility. So if you want to change something in your app, you can just go away and even just work on the database online and create something to test whether it would work. So it's incredibly simple to be flexible without having to create new tables every time you want to alter your database.
Any other input?
Yeah, just definitely that it lent itself quite nicely to some of the learning with JSON that we'd covered on the course. There was a lot of crossover there, which made it sort of feel quite natural in how we went about searching it. And yeah, it made itself very user-friendly in that way.
Good. Cool. Any other questions from online or in the room? I think we've got one coming online. How did you do the animations in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were able to source assets from a few different places. Typically, they would come in the form of sprite sheets, which are a single image with all of the different frames of the animation. And we were able to use a set of online tools, one to sort of split that image into all the different frames, and another one to turn those into a GIF, which would be sort of compatible with React Native and would be able to show that in the right way. And then we used a further tool to have those in a uniform size, so they would all be able to fit into the sort of the character selection screen in a way that looked consistent. So mostly online tools, but just a collaboration of about 3 or 4 different tools coming together, I think.
Amazing. Any more questions, or in the room or online? One of you? Just, yeah.
I was just wondering how you decided on your project idea, and if there were lots of ideas going around, and how you kind of honed in on this one.
Yeah, I don't mind taking that. I think we definitely had a few going around to begin with. I think sort of as a group, we were more inclined to do something along the lines of a game. We had quite a few ideas to begin with, but I think it was just through the initial spiking really that we realised this was viable and actually quite an interesting app that doesn't really exist at the moment. So there's quite a few elements from different apps, like we explained earlier, that we could bring together. So we just thought it'd be a great idea to explore out, really.
Cool. Any more? One quick one for myself. The line drawing on the map when you are going somewhere and exploring, going on a quest. How did you do that? What technology was implementing that feature? And was it tricky? Did you find it inconsistent, or was it?
It was relatively inconsistent. We used React Native Maps. There's a built-in polyline feature which just takes an array of coordinates. So every 5 seconds or so, would get the new location with new coordinates, and it would use that to create the polyline. It just depends, obviously, if you lose connection or if your location's slightly off, you would end up with a bit of a squiggly line. But overall, it works quite well. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. And that is it for Team Git Push, Get Paid. Another round of applause, please. Thank you very much. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back at 4 o'clock, I believe. James, is that right? Yeah, 4 o'clock. We'll see you shortly. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye. Hello and welcome back to our Northcoders graduation showcase. Our grads have been through a 14-week intensive coding bootcamp and now coming out the other end with a project which we'll about show you in just a moment. We have 3 teams left, and if you're hiring for tech in the North, get in touch. Get in touch with our partnerships team and we'll put you in touch with our grads. So without further ado, here is Team Breadcake with their app, Devcake. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Doug. Can everyone hear me all right? Cool, lovely. So we are Team Breadcake, and our app is Devcake. Next slide, please. There we go. So introducing you to the team, myself, I'm Alex.
I'm Brad. I'm Danny.
And I'm John. So that is the Breadcake team. And now we'll move on to the app itself. So Devcake. What's the first word that you think of? What do you think of when you hear Devcake? Obviously learning, right? So we created this web app as an aid to self-learning for developers. We strive to bring together learning resources from across the internet into one easy-to-use space. As with the rest of the group and most developers, when I first started to learn to code, I struggled to find information on how or what I needed to do or how to develop further. This is a problem we have solved with Devcake by giving users a customizable feed of educational content delivered across a range of media, including podcasts, books, courses, and much more. I'll pass you over to Brad to do the demo.
Hello, everyone. Okay, welcome to Devcake, everyone. Okay, so the first thing that you see when you click on the app is the login page. Okay, here you've got the option to log in if you're an existing user. If that's not the case, then you've also got the option to register as a new user. Okay, so once you've entered your details, you can press the sign up button. Okay, the next thing that you see is the topic choice page. Okay, so here you've got a wide variety of different topics, languages, and frameworks to choose from. Okay, so you can choose what you want to follow. Okay, you can choose as many of these as you want. Once you've finished picking your options and you click next, this then takes you to the media choice page. This is where you choose how you want to learn. Okay, so you can choose from books, podcasts, videos, courses, okay, anything you want. When you click next, it then takes you to the home page. Okay, down the middle of the home page is the main feed. Okay, on each individual item, you've got a bookmark button, which you can add to your reading list in your profile. You've also got a learn more button, which is essentially just a URL link to the content. This is also an infinite scroll. So when it scrolls to the bottom, it sends an API request to the backend to get the next page of content, and you can keep scrolling. To the left here, we've got the main nav bar, which you can access the user profile. In the user profile, we can have a look what topics and languages we're following. We can also browse through our reading list and look what's already been bookmarked. Okay, to the right, we've got the topic suggestion bar, where you can just follow topics on the fly instead of having to go back into the topic choice page. And you can, of course, unfollow and unbookmark any items you want. Okay, then if you've finished learning a certain language or a framework and you want to learn something else, you can, of course, go back into the topic choice page and then untick and tick any items you want your feed to consist of. Okay, you can also change the media types. And then when you go back onto the home page, obviously this will all be different content because you've changed your options. And then once you've finished learning, you can, of course, click the log out button, which logs the user out. Log out button. Nailed it.
There we go. That's it for Devcake. I'll pass you on to Danny, who's going to explain the back end.
Hi everyone. I'm just going to touch on how we approached the back end for this project and talk you through some of the tech we ended up using. So we first sat down and we just talked about what topics and technologies we were interested in, what we felt might suit this project. And one thing that was unanimous was that we all wanted to have a go at TypeScript. We liked that it was a different way of working by bringing in the static typing.
but we didn't have to go out and learn a whole load of new syntax with it being so similar to JavaScript. So then we did some research into how people tend to build backends with TypeScript, and we saw a lot of this framework Nest.js, which is built on top of Express and just lets you generate a lot of the boilerplate that you need for a REST API with a nice command line tool. But we did end up going back and just using Express just for the fact that it's so well documented, and there's a lot of resources out there, so it's to reference. As for the database, we went with MongoDB purely for the fact that we'd done a lot of work with Postgres through the course. So we wanted to try something non-relational. We liked the object-oriented approach that Mongo used, and specifically we used the cloud version, which was really handy. Meant we could just log on and insert documents as and when we needed them. And the plan was to seed our database with a load of content from a few third-party APIs. But luckily we found an API learning objects that was essentially doing this for us, already plugged into a lot of providers that we plan to use. We powered the queries to this API with some data from Stack Overflow using their annual developer insight survey to make sure we had content from relevant, useful topics. Overall, we had about 7,000 different documents across 30-something topics and 13 categories of media. The whole app was built with Jest. We built all the endpoints using TDD, and we had like daily stand-ups and scrums and whatnot, making us an agile team. So I'm going to pass you on to John now, who's going to touch on the front end.
Thanks very much. So the front end of the app is built mainly using React. We did originally in the spiking phase look at using a different framework or library such as Svelte, but we decided that with having to use TypeScript, it was best for us to stick to something that we'd already used. And alongside that, we really wanted to sort of utilize the MERN stack because of how popular it is in the industry. What we've done is we've used React Router alongside user context, and that will sort of link you between different pages and disable you being able to access things that you perhaps shouldn't, like the content feed if you're not logged in. And we styled the app using a mix of sort of CSS and then styled components, which we found really, really good for sort of keeping everything in one place and making it a nice sort of dev-friendly way of styling things as we went through. As Brad's already touched on, we implemented an infinite scroll. We thought this was the best way of using pagination for our app because we had such a wide range of different contents. It made sense to use that for the user experience rather than having sort of pages to go through. And then we used local storage then to persist our user data between sessions if we wanted to. I'm going to also talk about the future of Devcake. And this starts with interactivity. So one thing that we wanted to implement from the start was the ability for users to sort of talk to each other, recommend different things that they'd used, maybe write reviews or comment on things, but we didn't quite manage to get that far. So that's definitely something we'd like to add for the future. We also thought about the idea of making the content sort of appear based on how much users were interacting with it, so that the most popular stuff from our users' perspective was at the top of the feed. We also then want to implement a live feed. So at the minute, the sort of source of truth, if you like, for our data is that Stack Overflow survey that happens once a year. We would in the future like to sort of implement other sources so we can cross-reference and make sure that we're keeping up with the industry as it sort of changes. And then finally, more content. So at the minute, we're very reliant on Stack Overflow and then the Learning Objectives API. So we'd look to expand on that to make sure that we have the most relevant and the best to use content. I'm going to pass you over to Brad and Alex, who are going to take us through the challenges.
Okay, so the main challenges. Okay, I think one of the main challenges we encountered was the new tech that we was using, such as TypeScript and MongoDB and their associated packages. I think with anything in technology, anything takes a bit of getting used to. But we quickly came to see the positives of all of them. I think TypeScript setup was quite heavy. So the app started a bit slow. And the fact that we were so comfortable with JavaScript and we were so used to it meant it was quite difficult to become comfortable with the TypeScript compiler. But once we did, we really saw the benefits of seeing errors. Really started to see the benefits of getting errors up front as opposed to later on in development. Okay, another thing we struggled with was settling on the functionality our minimum viable product should have. I think with it being our first app, we had all built from scratch. We all had quite a lot of ideas, and it was hard not to run away with them all, given the time frame we had to build it in. Alex?
Cool. So often in these presentations, you don't see a positive side. You often get the challenges, but not the positives. So one positive for us was creative freedom. Like Brad was saying about the MVP, we had a lot of ideas to start off with, and that was good. Being able to put your ideas to paper and then seeing them grow into a fully fledged app really gave us confidence that we are developers and we can do this. It was a really good feeling. Secondly is the team. We created a strong bond as a team, to say the least. And the morale's always been high. Everyone's always been around to help, regardless of the time. And it's been great. So I just wanted to publicly thank the team for their efforts. Any questions?
Absolutely amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Team Breadcake. Any questions? Got one right here.
Hello.
Hi.
When you had the suggested topics or suggested different language on the side, are they produced using some kind of algorithm, or are they just random at the moment? And if they're random, would you think about adding an algorithm there?
So the topics are ordered by popularity in the Stack Overflow survey, so that's what's powering that. The top of the list is the most popular topic that you want to follow.
Yeah, live updates as well. I don't know whether you noticed on the demo, but as you click on it, it'll disappear, and then as you unfollow stuff, it'll then pop back up in that suggested list.
Amazing. Any more for any more? Any online? If you are online, feel free to put your questions in the chat. They are sent to us. I can read them out live. So I guess a question from me, with TypeScript in your application, how easy was it for you, because this is a new technology, we learned JavaScript in the course, TypeScript was brand new. How easy was it for to get that skill shared amongst you? Did you have to kind of have learning sessions? Did you share knowledge in group calls? How was that?
Yeah, we pair programmed a lot, which was helpful, and usually we'd have one person on documentation or whatever helping out the other person. Go ahead, John.
I think we all started off sort of looking into different tutorials online, looking into different things like, the Codecademy sort of, to get started, and then start to use the documents for it. Luckily, TypeScript is quite well documented, along with the rest of the Mern stack. So, and with it being so popular, even if it wasn't documented, there was quite a lot of help online from, Stack Overflow and that kind of thing, even if you did have to sift through it a bit.
Of course. Yeah. Cool. And we've got a question online, I think, coming in. I might have missed it, but did you deal with user authentication at all using external services or your own?
I'll take that one as well. That was on the back end, yeah. We used bcrypt, which was just a package with no JS in it. It just hash user passwords, and I think we had a method on the user schema that would compare the hashed password. So yeah, that was all done on the back end.
Yeah, and the password's only entered one time on the front end. So when you log in, it's put in, but we don't actually store it anywhere. So it's all handled in the back end to kind of keep it as secure as possible. Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Great question. Any more questions in the room? Any online? Cool. Well, thank you very much, Team Breadcake, and they're at Devcake. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you. Cool. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break, switch groups. Be with you back shortly. Hello and welcome back to our live graduation showcase here at Northcoders. We have two groups left, and now I'm proud to present Team Algorithmics with their app, Walker. Take it away.
Okay, hello everyone. We are Team Algorithmics, and the app we will be presenting today is Walker. Our team is Richard Noble, Stephen Cork, myself, Joe Wadiko, Mohammed Soab, and Stuart Aird. Next slide, please. Okay, so Walker was an idea based around uniting dog owners whose schedules mean they cannot provide the daily attention their dog requires, with dog walkers who have turned their love of dogs into a career. The lockdowns last year meant an influx in newly purchased dogs by people working and spending more time than ever at home. Now, in-office work has resumed and we're spending more time away from the house. These dogs still need that daily companionship even if we can't be there. Walker makes finding that easy. Next slide, please. So we began by setting out a list of user stories which form the basis of the app. As a dog walker using the app, I would want an easy way of finding regular local work while also being able to manage all of my bookings and payments within the app. As a dog owner, I would want the ability to find a local, trusted dog walker that would be able to give my dog the exercise they need when I can't provide it. I would also like the app to allow me to search my area for the right people and facilitate easy communication and payment. And we're now going to show you a brief run through of our app running on iOS.
User authentication adeptly handled by Firebase. Next step is going to be to create a profile. So let's just fill in some details. We'll turn your postcode into a geotag with an API call. Once you've uploaded a picture, why not submit your profile, and then we'll store your details securely in real-time database. Now, that's all done. I'm an owner. I've got a pooch, needs a walk. So let's have a look on the walker screen and see who we've got available. Search by hourly rate or the rating of the walker. When you find somebody that you like the look of, Ella Jones looks like a great walker here. Let's have a look at some more details and we can reach out to that dog walker from there. We can also use the integrated Google Maps search to search in our area. So just pick your location. Let's zoom in and have a look at these pins. Let's see if we can find somebody we like the look of, and we can start a chat with Michelle straight away from this screen. Now, we may need to book a few dog walks, and there may be a number of dog walkers that we're in contact with. So you can reach out to all of them through the chat screen, which we'll demonstrate next. We're just setting up a dog walk now, chatting with Obi, who's going to walk our dog. This all happens in real time, pushed from the real-time database. Okay. Now we've confirmed our dog walk, so let's go and make a payment to confirm the booking. So we've used Stripe to integrate online payments here. Once that's done, we're confirmed and we are good to go. We think that this is a powerful and easy to use app, but we have included a support section. Give us feedback. Tell us about any issues you've encountered. And now I will hand over to Stuart, who's going to talk through our tech stack.
Thanks, Stephen. We knew from the outset that we wanted our app to target both Android and iOS users, so our solution had to be platform agnostic. Given our exposure to both JavaScript and React from the Northcoder syllabus, React Native felt like a natural evolution to build our front end with, despite the framework being completely new to all of us. We also made use of Expo as it simplified the process of accessing the local device without the need to learn the native SDKs for either platform. After deciding on the functionality we wanted in our app, things like strong authentication, real-time chat, card payments, and so on, we started the spiking process to identify the best tools for the job. Initially, we considered building our own backend using the tools we're familiar with, like Postgres and the Express framework. However, we discovered early on that Firebase could streamline the inclusion of those features without having to spend additional development time reinventing the wheel. The inclusion of Firebase also afforded us the opportunity to include some tech we hadn't used before, such as the NoSQL database for storing user profiles and chat conversations, as well as Firebase hosting and Firebase functions to provide an API for our payment solution. When it came to processing payments, our first solution was to use PayPal. However, during development, we encountered issues trying to integrate it with React Native. As a result, we had to start looking for alternatives without delaying the build. Stripe came to the fore as a potential solution and proved relatively straightforward to integrate with both React Native and Firebase. With that, I'll hand over to Mo to talk about how the team collaborated to create Walker.
We've been working with different softwares and methodologies. So, for example, for the design and wireframes, we use Figma, which is very nice, by the way. But before we started coding, we spent some time spiking our user stories and features we wanted to implement in our app, considering MVP and RATS concepts, which is a minimal viable product and the best case assumption tests to make sure the project is viable. During the project, we've been working with Agile methodology. We used the Kanban board to organize our project workflow, and for that, we used Trello. We conducted a daily stand-up, so everyone in the team can share how far they are with the work, what they will be working on, and if they have anything obstructing their performance. In terms of collaboration and teamwork, we worked as pairs all the time, mastering GitHub best practices, such as using branches for each feature, instead of pushing everything to the main branch. And finally, the whole board is diverting to virtual platform as an alternative to face-to-face meetings. We were able to master navigation through Zoom platform. And now to Rek to talk us through the challenges we faced.
Taking on board many new technologies wasn't without its own difficulties, but it was a steep learning curve, but overcoming small obstacles was really rewarding and enriching. Given more time, we would have developed additional features such as peer-to-peer payments, because currently we're using Stripe with a sandbox test account. Additional features would have been Google Routes, which would have allowed us to record dog walking routes and share that data to the client. Google Calendar API would have allowed us to manage and schedule bookings and present that data both to dog walkers and owners. We're very proud of our app, and we developed it in a short space of time, and we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bring them all back. Thank you very much. Any questions, please? Online or in person? Well, one from me then, very quickly. React Native, we do teach React on the course. How did you find the transition from what you knew to this new framework and this new technology?
I think some of it's familiar, but you can be lulled into a bit of a false sense of security with that because some things just don't work in the same way. We really wanted it to be an app because we wanted to get to grips with new tech. We wanted to take React Native on board. And there's something really satisfying actually about seeing something on an app screen, on your mobile phone screen. So yeah, it was a challenge, but we absolutely loved using it.
Brilliant. And we have one coming in online from Scott. Would you do any checks on walkers? Any checks on references, etc.? Did you consider that as part of your plan? Who wants to field that one?
It definitely would have to be. Like, I know people's pets are obviously very precious to them, so they wouldn't just want some random person being able to sign up and instantly get access to their dog. But yeah, we definitely look for like accreditations as well as like our existing user review system to enforce that.
Why did you use Firebase real-time database over Firestore? Hashtag.
I think we became familiar with it quite quickly, and I think that's why we used it. Really, it served our needs, and it was a relatively easier learning curve for us, and we were just up and running with it. So it did everything we needed it to do.
Any more input for anyone online? Cool. One from myself. Oh, actually, I've got one over here.
I was just wondering, you mentioned that you tried a couple of technologies which then you found didn't work, like the payment thing that you were doing. At what point do you kind of decide to stop trying to kind of deep dive into that and get it to work and come back and reconsider your other options to investigate?
I guess I'll take that one. It was only on perhaps early this week that the booking didn't make the MVP, but we decided after talking to the tutors, give it one more go, and Stripe was a bit easier than PayPal to integrate. So Monday.
I think, yeah, just to add, like, we started with quite an ambitious MVP, and the MVP changed many times. It got smaller, it got bigger again, and some things that we thought would be really quick and easy to do weren't. So there's loads we can do with it. There's loads more to do, but we're pleased with where we got.
Cool. Amazing. And yeah, being a 2-week project, what you've managed to accomplish, all the teams have been absolutely fantastic. Got a question right at the back.
Sorry for making you run. I've got one. Stripe, can you expand on how it works and what it works with and its securities?
Who wants to take that one?
I think Stuart can.
Yeah, I kind of saw that one coming. Okay. So the way that we've got Stripe working with our app at the moment is that it's hosted in Firebase using their hosting solution, and we're using Firebase functions to provide the endpoints for its API. So Stripe requires a back-end API. There's no way around that, unfortunately. And in order to use it in the app, we've ended up using a React Native web view to wrap the hosted solution in Firebase and inject that straight into the app itself.
Cool, amazing. Any more for any more? Any questions? Cool. Come on, coming in the line from Rebecca. What did you learn about working as a team with the limited time during this project?
It's important to communicate. Like, we found the daily stand-ups to be like so important. We also found ourselves probably most days having at least two, like a stand-up and a stand-down, just so we were more in tune with what others were actually doing. I'd also say, like, the GitHub branches were like, we found that quite difficult at first. We had, like, the first couple of days quite a lot of clashes in our files. One quite severe one where we basically had to, like, delete the package lock and start again. So yeah, getting to grips with that was tricky at first, but very important.
Cool. Any more input from anyone else?
I think just the communication was second to none, and everybody was so willing to, update one another, whether it was on Slack, sort of dropping a Zoom call in here and there. We were just all over it as a team, and I'm really proud to have worked with these guys because it was just such a positive experience.
Agree.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Team Algorithmics, with their app Walker. Once again, round of applause. Cool. Thank you very much. We're going to take a very short break to switch over to our final team. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you shortly. Hello, welcome back. And here is our final team in this Northcoders live graduation showcase. I'm very proud to present Team Hip Hip Array with their app Out of Orbit. Take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel and I'm a part of Team Hip Hip Array. As you can see here, the team consists of myself, Richard, Joe, Matt, and Rachel. Now, when we first came to discuss what we'd like to do for our project, there was a few things that were at the forefront of our mind. We wanted to make an app that was fun and entertaining. We wanted to make an app that was useful to people, and we also wanted to make an app that would make people's lives just a little bit easier. Now, there had been a few things, like when we brought all these ideas together, we came up with the idea of creating an educational app, something for children and parents alike. And we wanted something that could be used or designed with COVID in mind, that could help to educate and enrich children, but not just during these difficult times, but also when they're not at school, at home, because that can be just as important to children's education. So we came up with the app Out of Orbit. Now, this is aimed primarily at families and at parents who want to help enrich their kids' education. But we find it's entertaining for people of all ages, adults as well as children. Now, one of the things that we had really honed in on was how to keep people entertained, especially children. And we decided that augmented reality was the way forward, or AR. And so we thought that this would be the best way to make people receptive to the app, make it interesting for them. And we wanted to make sure that AR would be important to its success of the app and to the success of the educational aims. Now, making this app interactive was our top priority. So I will pass you over to Rachel, and she will be able to take you through a demo of the app.
Hi, so I'll take you through how the app works. So we first come to the login screen, and we can either create a new account or log in as an existing user, as we're doing here, and that's managed by Firebase authentication. We then go to the mission preparation page, where we enter our name. We can choose a character from a number of different avatars. And because we're using augmented reality, users will need a marker, which looks like this. And we can click on this link and we'll get a PDF that we can either print out or display on another device. We then go to the mission details, which tells us what we need to do, which is to visit various planets, learn about them, and answer quiz questions to win badges. And you can see we've already won some, and some have yet to be won. To go to the planets, we can either click on these cards, or we can go to the menu and click Launch Mission. We can also reset our progress here if we want to, go back to mission prep to change our name or avatar, or sign out. When we launch the mission, we'll go straight to the 3D solar system model, and all our 3D models are sourced from NASA. The navigation bar at the bottom enables us to visit different planets. So here we've gone to Earth, and we can spin them and rotate them, zoom in, zoom out using our mouse or our touch screen on our phone. But we don't just have planets, we do have Pluto, and we've got other spacecraft such as the space station, you can see here. And if users do want to go into augmented reality, they can click on a guide. This just reminds them to print the marker and have it ready, gives them a bit of advice about what kind of background they need to put it on, and warns them that they'll need to give the app permission to use the camera. It also shows them how they'll use, they need to position the camera in relation to the marker. To go onto the AR view, there's a toggle button the screen that they can use. And then we point our camera at the marker and the 3D image should appear in the camera view. And again, they can spin it around, they can zoom in and zoom out, but they can also walk around it and move the camera around the model to see it from all different angles. And we've used A-frame and AR.js to give custom behaviors that we wanted to our markers, to our 3D models. While we're on the ISS page, we can then go on the trivia for the ISS page. And again, we got all our facts from NASA. And this will help them answer the questions in the quiz later on. And on the space station page, they can also click on this link and it will show them where the ISS is right now. So it's currently orbiting over the Atlantic Ocean. And they can also watch a live feed from the ISS. And when we're ready, we can go on to the quiz. And each quiz has 10 questions, but you only need to get 7 right to get your badge. And if you don't get 7 right, you can do the quiz as many times as you want. You only have to answer the questions that you got wrong previously. When you do win a badge, you will get a notification that shows you your new badge. Hopefully they get a new badge. There we go. And then they can either go and see it straight away or they can continue the quiz if they haven't already. So we're continuing the quiz, and when we finally finish the quiz, we'll again get the option to either go and see the badge or to return to the planets. If we go back to mission control, we can scroll down to the ISS and we see our new badge and we see that we've got 8 out of 10 questions right. So I'll pass you over to Matt, who will talk about the technology that we used.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi. As you can see, our app is very heavy on the front-end side. So we use a database that's well, backend that's easy to deploy and easy to use. So we went for Firebase. Our Firebase authentication system helped us to validate users' information like passwords and emails, and stored passwords securely on a Firebase server. And on our course, we were learning SQL databases, but we wanted to try something else. And also, the data set we had for facts and quizzes wasn't very complicated. It was quite simple. So we used Firebase database just to store all the information in the database, because it was also easy to seed that database. It was as simple as just importing JSON file with all relevant information. And I will now pass you to the front-end part to Joe, our AR and 3D wizard.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. So when it comes to the front end, React is the framework that we have chosen. We also use A-frame and AR.js to build our 3D and AR experience, and Leaflet to display the live location of ISS, and Roman to quickly give some styling to our app. We have learned React in our course, so naturally we would have liked to play with React Native and build native mobile app. But in the end, we have decided to stick with React and make it a web app instead. A large part of this decision is because we want to utilize A-frame and AR.js in our products. Although the community is not that big and robust as some other major 3D frameworks, we saw some advantages in using A-frame. Firstly, because it is an entirely web-based technology, it is platform independent. You can run it on iOS or Android or Windows or any other OS or which have a modern browser. Also, A-frame performs decently well in low-end hardware. Therefore, with our app, parents can make use of some spare device in their home, such as an unused smartphone or an old laptop, to give their children an inspiring little journey into the outer space. And from our developer experience perspective, A-frame's decorative and composable nature is similar to React that we are very familiar with in our course, and that enable us to code the behavior of the 3D objects with a similar approach that we do in React. Just like how we make the 3D moving solar system that you see just now, We put the sun at the center. We put rotating rings components around it, and we popped the planet at the edge of each rings, and then put the props like rotation velocity, the radius into each components, and it's done. And that was how we managed to start from zero knowledge with 3D AR and build an app with these features within a limited time span. And that pretty much concluded the tech choice of our app. So now I would like to hand over to Richard to talk about some of the challenges that we have.
Brilliant, Joe. Thanks very much. So, Houston, we have a problem. I'm going to go through some of the challenges we faced in the development of our app. Luckily, we had a great team, so our challenges were fairly limited, but the challenges we did face, I think we overcame very well. So probably the biggest one was we used agile methodologies throughout our development of our app. However, we hadn't worked in such a large team during the course on Northcoders. We often worked in groups of 2. So obviously trying to manage quite a large group with different ideas for our app, different positives and negatives to their knowledge. It was difficult initially to try and hone all those skills into one app. But we did that through using, again, agile methods. So we had a scrum every morning, which was a stand-up, which I think we really refined. So after the first couple of days, I think it worked really well. So we limited it to a 10-minute meeting where we discussed what we'd done the previous day and challenges, kind of an overview of what we were going to do. Once we'd finished that meeting, we set up a new meeting a bit later just to go into a bit more detail of exactly what we were going to do, the pairs we were going to pair up to, and what our plans were for the rest of the day. Any potential meetings we might have later on. So we often said, right, we'll meet up on Slack at 1 o'clock and just have a meeting to see how everyone was getting on. I think that gave us a great team. And any problems got ironed out pretty quickly, which led to developing the app that you can see today. Issues with some of the technology that we had. So AR.js, the documentation is still in development, so it's quite sparse a lot of the time, and it's a small community, so we had to do a lot of trial and error. So it was a lot of meetings between us, a lot of mob programming where we'd all jump in, we'd all chip in with ideas of what we could try to get it to work. And again, you can see today that eventually we got to a product that we were really happy with. On the other side of the spectrum, Firebase is a massive and extensive documentation, so it was often difficult to find exactly what we needed for our use case. Again, we had to use other sources, so if we didn't know it ourselves, we used Google, Stack Overflow, and we weren't afraid to ask people who knew more about it to help us out. And again, I think Matt did great work on finding that information and passing it on to the team, so we all knew where we stood with the back end. And with our APIs, we had a little bit of trouble with Netlify. So what was happening was the information we were getting for the live feed of the, sorry, not the live feed, but the live data of where the ISS was. We were having trouble because the API we were using wasn't a secure site. So when we tried to use that on Netlify, it was throwing up errors. So we needed to switch our API to a secure model. And I think what that really highlighted was the fact that we needed to ensure that security was at the forefront of our mind, no matter what we were doing in the app. And again, it just really highlighted that problem. So yeah, I mean, we're really happy with the app. We're really proud of it, and we just would ask that if anybody would like to check it out, we've put the link on this presentation, and we'd encourage anybody to give it a try. But if there's any questions, we'll happily take them now. Thank you.
Absolutely incredible stuff. And like to create that little 3D solar system, who knew that would be that straightforward and fun? And just to say, I'm very glad you also said "and parents" at the end, because I was thinking all the way through that I really want to get my hands on it. So I'll be visiting that later and maybe I'll borrow that bit. Cool. Any questions from the room or any questions online, please? Out of this world, says Scott online.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
We appreciate punnery, space-based punnery, yeah.
Cool. One from Emily. Did you consider trying to make the trivia more interactive? And how do you think you would do this?
We did. We would have liked it to be able to put little markers on the planets that they could click on and get the trivia up rather than make it as a list. But I think we were finding the overlay on the markers was really difficult.
Yeah.
So that is something that we would like to have considered.
Yeah.
More, but we did find that overlay on the model was really difficult.
Yeah, I think there's some things that ARJS is great for its simplicity, and there are certain things that you can customize really, really easily. But there are other things where, when you get to a point that you want to start animating parts of 3D objects and stuff, you need to be looking into much heavier things. So like Unity and like making whole items on Blender and stuff, which can be done, but in 2 weeks' time, taking that on and everything else we had to do would have just been too much.
Brilliant. Any more questions? On the back, can I borrow a mic real quick? Sorry much.
Yeah, so the AR looked really good. I've used AR a little bit, but first time it looks really impressive. Second time you lose a bit of like the wow factor. So where do you see it going in the future with the app, and what's the end goal with augmented reality?
I think again, he's going back to try and get the overlays working, because I know what you mean in terms of the planets. It could get a bit samey in terms of you spinning the planet and it looks kind of identical to the last planet you've done. So again, it'd be really focused on that overlay, and we did try and implement that fairly early doors, but again, it was kind of, we were spiking things in terms of we knew we could get a planet on there when we knew that looked impressive, but in terms of trying to get an overlay on that and trying to press things as you can spin it, unfortunately, just in the time scale, we needed to scale it back a bit and just go for the MVP, which was the planets that you can spin around. But yeah, we would love to deep dive and really get stuck in and have a look whether those overlays are possible and whether it's something we could implement in the future.
I think if we could have created our own like models and customize them a bit more, we might have made things like that they could find on those models, and that they would be different each time, or little tasks to do as well on them, just to make that augmented reality a bit different every time that they go onto it. Yeah.
Cool, amazing questions. Any more questions? If you're online, feel free to put some questions in the chat. Scott says, any ideas social media integrations, sharing a family/users progress to Facebook, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this was one of the issues when we initially started the idea. We had that many ideas, and it was difficult to obviously pinpoint exactly what we wanted to do. And I think that where the MVP came in, it was crucial for our app, because unfortunately we do only have 2 weeks to make it. And I think we really needed to pinpoint exactly what we wanted to make it look impressive, and to show off our skills of learning new technologies without it being too much. Because I think if it was much more, we would have struggled to get it together in the time. But
I think it's definitely a good idea. I think that would 100% drive if we were looking at like, user retention or how to gain new users. That would be an excellent way. Maybe we just, I think we were very, as Rich said, we were very concentrating on our MVP, but 100% if we were to start adding more stuff to it, I think that's probably one of the first places that we'd look.
Cool. Any more questions? I mean, I have one about the ISS API and how you managed to access that data. How did that work? Was it a free API? Did you manage to connect to it fairly easily?
There's a couple of free APIs out there that give you the latitude and longitude of the ISS. So we use one of those using Axios to access it. And then we could put those coordinates in the leaflet map, and that gave us the pin on the map. As Rich said, we had a bit of problems and we had to swap that API because it wasn't a secure site. So when we had the hosted version, it wasn't working. And then we also had an API that then reversed those coordinates to actually give us the country or territory that it was over. So we could display a message, saying it's orbiting over this country or this ocean.
Amazing. Very interesting stuff. Any more for any more? Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the Northcoders live graduation showcase. We've shown off a lot of presentations today. Once again, if you are hiring in the North, do get in contact with our partnerships team. I've been Doug. This has been Team Hip Hip Array with their app Out of Orbit. And once again, another big round of applause, please.